Everything has its own beginning, and what you're about to hear today is the humble beginning of Soul Saving Fellowship Center. It all started in prayer. When the pandemic hit the whole world, many suffered, many were terrified, and millions of people died. Churches were closed, and no one is allowed to have mass gathering, including Sunday worship. Almost everything changed, and everyone had to adapt to what they called the new normal. But instead of being hopeless and being afraid, we kneel before God in prayer. Pastor Manuel and his team, namely Jay Mangelani, Raymar Cortez, and J. Boy Ulan Ulan, conducted a Bible study and prayer time every night in the residence of Pastor Manuel Molfino in Deca Homes, Mulig Duril, Davao City. And one of their prayers is having a church, and even though it is impossible to open a church amidst the pandemic, yet they have faith that everything is possible with God. Way back September 27, 2020, Burja, Hazel, and Mavic went to the residence of Pastor Manuel Molfino for just a visit, and Jack usually does a Facebook Live while singing and playing piano. And in the middle of FB Live, Pastor Manuel suggested, "What if we will be having Bible study here?" And we started the Bible study September 3rd week until officially they made it a Sunday worship way back September 27 of the same year. And from that date forward, the church continues to grow. We invited friends to come and join us in worship in the residence of Pastor Manuel. The government once again announced for no movement, especially on Sunday. And though we were sad, yet we have to follow the protocols. It was last week of October 2020, Pastor Melfino got a chat message from Mrs. Polly Maglasang, asking if we have a Sunday worship, and Pastor Melfino replied that the government declared a no movement during Sunday because of the arising COVID case in the city. And Mrs. Maglasang replied, "Pastor, lisod kaay sa feeling kung wala simba sa Domingo. Kay maora man gud na ang time ug pamaagi na ma-refresh me. How ang kay sa feeling kung walay simba sa Domingo?" And she added, "Sunday worship makes us happy. Lisod na gani ang panahon unya wala pa jud tay simba-simba." And these lines struck the heart of Pastor Manuel. And to him, it's a direct message from God saying that this pandemic will never stop his people serving and worshiping him. And on that Sunday, Pastor Melfino sent messages to all members telling them to continue Sunday worship. And now the church never stops and will never stop until the Lord comes. I quote the life story of Prophet Jonah. When God called him to preach to Nineveh, he tried to flee from the calling of the Lord and went to Tarshish instead. This church is a story of fleeing from the calling of God. Our pastor tried to flee from God's calling like Jonah, only to find out that when he leaves and goes to a place to get away, later he realizes the place he's going on to is prepared by God for him. It was a roller coaster journey because as usual we are under so many trials, but by God's grace we survive. In August 2021, the name of the church was officialized, Soul Saving Fellowship Center, which aims to share the gospel to all houses and people who need Christ Jesus. The church grew and grew. However, the residence of Pastor Manuel Molfino in Deca Homes Mulig became smaller for the Sunday gatherings. In addition to that, the residence contract is about to end. May 2022, Pastor decided to build a house in Purok Dos, Abukaduhan, Mulig, Turil. And by May 29, 2022, the relocation of Soul Saving Fellowship Church was officialized. From that day on until today, other families were added to the numbers. The church was praying and started a seed of faith for the church lot and building. We prayed for a 200 square meter lot. Later month of 2022, a lot beside Manggilimutan residence was offered. We may not have had enough church funds during that time. But by God's providence, in the year 2023, the lot was officially a soul-saving fellowship center future church. With the help and generosity of every member, we were able to start building our dream church, the church that we've been wanting and praying for. We dedicated, prayed, and offered, and we even halved our church bayanihan, because our goal during that time was to celebrate our third-year Thanksgiving anniversary with the new building, which we can call the SSFC Church. All things are indeed possible with God, because last year's Thanksgiving anniversary was finally held here. From there on, this is where our Sunday service, Bible study, discipleship, children ministry, and all other church activities take place. And now we call it our home, a home in which Jesus is the center of this church. And as we celebrate our 4th-year Thanksgiving anniversary today, we praise and glorify the Lord for another milestone, another fruitful year, and another opportunity to be a blessing to others. With our church name, Soul Saving Fellowship Center, we'll continue with our vision and goal, which is saving and winning more souls. And so, we're asking all of our visitors who are here today to join us in prayer that sooner, in God's perfect time, this church will be fully paid, fully renovated, fully furnished, and again, win more souls for this church to be fully occupied. With everything and all that we have right now, we are blessed beyond measure, and will continue to serve God with a grateful heart.